on her head and smoothed the wide, fur-lined cuffs at her wrists. She again met his gaze. "There, you may escort me to see the king," Janet announced crisply. "Is he receiving many this afternoon? They are not long arrived from Linlithgow. I thought he and the Queen might have tarried there longer. I'm sure she prefers Linlithgow to Stirling Castle." "No." Janet hesitated, forcing a laugh. "No? To which point?" Sir Lachlan's lips tightened, and he took her elbow again, leading her across the comfortably furnished chamber and out into the torchlit hallway. Even in summer, the stone walls and floor held a cool dampness, and the row of torches sitting in their small wrought-iron cradles were a welcome source of light and warmth. "Only you," he said, "and Lady Marjorie Hepburn." Confusion furrowed her brow. She well knew what her own sins were, but it was hard to imagine Lady Marjorie's. The king's beautiful young ward had only recently been released from imprisonment in a remote convent. Allegedly for her comfort and protection, but as Lady Marjorie's father, Lord Hepburn, had been involved in the death of the king's father at Sockeyburn back in 1488, it was hard to see it as anything other than punishment. "Oh." "Fret not, lady. No harm will befall you, I swear." Janet almost stumbled again. As soon as she returned to her chamber, she would throw those almond-paste comfits out the window. Bad enough the sweet treat had caused her to feel lust at the Highland Beast's touch, but now she'd heard a faint note of tenderness in his tone. Impossible. Thoroughly unnerved, she remained silent for the rest of their walk across the inner close. While Stirling Castle had stood for centuries, a brooch that fastened the Highlands and Lowlands together, James had made several improvements. The two newest buildings were the King's House, where he entertained privately and listened to petitions, and the jaw-droppingly magnificent Great Hall. The King's House had 3 principal rooms. On the ground floor there was a hall where visitors and petitioners waited, and a great chamber for favoured noblemen. However, up a turnpike staircase was his private chamber, where only his closest friends and advisers were permitted. This was their destination, and all those watching enviously knew it. Few had unfettered access to the king, but this day Janet would gladly decline the honour and return to her book of poetry. How angry would James be at her disobedience? In what way would he punish her? Hopefully not banishment to a convent. Virginal Lady Marjorie might have survived years in one, but Scotland's most notorious sinner wouldn't last an hour. At the foot of the stairs, 2 armed guards waited. One inclined his head. "Sir Lachlan, Lady Janet, the king awaits you." How she hated these stairs. Whether climbing or descending, the spiral made her dizzy, and the walls always seemed to press in on her. Oddly, with her escort behind her, she felt a trifle safer. Another armed guard opened the door at the top with a polite bow and ushered them into the lavishly furnished chamber. "Lady Janet," greeted the king, his cool formality unnerving her further. "Your Grace," she murmured, sinking into a deep curtsy. James Stewart wasn't a tall man, or especially broad-shouldered, but his fashionable, fiercely intelligent presence filled a room. Visitors were often lulled by his easy charm, humour, and gift for languages, but those shrewd brown eyes missed nothing. He'd won several decisive victories on the battlefield, and lured back many Scottish nobles who had abandoned the court in disgust because the previous king had disastrously surrounded himself with advisers who were tailors and masons. "False meekness from my fiery lass is unbecoming," he continued sharply. "Look at me and explain why you disobeyed my order. Do you know the trouble you've caused me?"